On October 30th, 2012, Disney had bought the rights to Lucasfilm, the production company behind the Star Wars franchise. This will result in changes to the Star Wars franchise, including the sequel trilogy in the making, which fans grew to anticipate. But there are also sacrifices to be made as well. You see, Star Wars had an animated series called The Clone Wars airing its 5th season on Cartoon Network. And so after the season concluded, Lucasfilm announced that the episodes that they had completed for Season 6 would be the final episodes of The Clone Wars. This left fans heartbroken by the news, including myself, and I was only a teenager during the 5 seasons of The Clone Wars, so I felt like an era was ending, but a new one was beginning as well. You see, Dave Filoni was also working on a new Star Wars animated project for Disney XD. Only this one would have a different animation style and would have a different tone from the Clone Wars. That, of course, was Rebels. But as the trailers and the sneak peeks would be released for fans to see, they either said that they were eager to see it or said to themselves, I have a bad feeling about this. But was Rebels a worthy successor to the Clone Wars, and was it worth watching? Hi fellas, this is Rabe speaking, and let's discuss Star Wars Rebels because I just rewatched it and I am ready to share my thoughts with you. The story of Rebels is not the most unique or unoriginal, as many other Star Wars projects are, but sometimes that's okay. In the original trilogy, it was an underdog story. It was the story of a rebel band going up against an evil empire, and of course the main character trains to become a powerful Jedi. Fast forward to Rebels, and it kind of inherits the same premise, but of course it has its differences. Rebels starts off 5 years before A New Hope, and as the series progresses, the bigger the rebellion grows to become the Rebel Alliance that we see in the original trilogy. So the rebels that we see in Season 1 only consist of 6 people who fly on a ship called the Ghost. They start off helping those in need to then fighting a bigger cause. Despite having the same premise as the original trilogy, it does tackle elements differently, and we do learn new things about the galaxy and the Force itself. And that's one of the things that makes Rebels great on its own, making sure that Rebels is not a complete ripoff of the original trilogy. Also, the show takes place during Andor being the darker side of the Rebel Alliance, while Star Wars Rebels is the mostly lighthearted side of the Rebel Alliance. And so just hearing Mon Mothma mention the Gordon Massacre really sent shivers down my spine because Andor added so much context to that very massacre. If you haven't seen Andor yet, you should, because just seeing that very moment with the Gormans, man though, I just look at Star Wars in a different way. It makes me wanna hate the Empire even more. Now, like I said earlier, the show does get dark at times, like when we see Saw Gerrera, for example. He may be a rebel like the Ghost Crew, but he has a track record of playing bad cop. And when Ezra sees that for the first time, he knows that not every rebel is a good person. One of the flaws that I do have with Star Wars Rebels are the stormtroopers. In this show, they are treated like laughingstocks. They don't add any level of threat or fear for our audience because how the heroes easily outsmart them. It's just sometimes the heroes succeed with infiltration missions and barely suffer consequences for them. Like, how many times are the heroes going to disguise themselves as stormtroopers, sneak into a Star Destroyer, and then escape with barely a scratch? I understand in A New Hope they snuck around the Death Star and then escaped, but then again, Obi-Wan did sacrifice himself, so I guess that was high stakes. It's when we start getting the big players of the Empire, the stakes start to become high, and Season 4 is when we know the Empire is not playing around anymore, and the heroes are starting to take L's after L's. Let's talk about the animation. You see, the animation was inspired by Ralph McQuarrie, who did the concept art for the original trilogy, and even that artwork is just breathtaking to look at. And so the people behind Rebels really wanted to honor his memory by making that the look of the show. But how did it translate well on the small screen? Well, in the first season, the character designs and the environments look really cheap. And that's, of course, another flaw that I have with the show, as well as others do. Perfect example are the Wookiees. They don't look like they have fur, they just look like they're made of plastic. And some other character designs just look really cartoony for Star Wars. I mean, the first season of the Clone Wars didn't look the best either, like, I get that. Though, like, the next few seasons came by, and the visuals for the show, for Rebels, it starts to improve a bit though, but I still don't think it was up there with the later seasons of the Clone Wars. Now, if Rebels did get the Disney Plus budget that Bad Batch would later get, imagine how stunning Rebels would look. But the only thing that I will respect about the art style for Rebels is not just it was inspired by Ralph McQuarrie, but also they were trying to give the show a different look. Like, it wasn't trying to be like in the shadow of the Clone Wars, despite having characters from the Clone Wars, which we'll get into in a little bit. And so I respect that, I really do. It shows that they're willing to think outside of the box. When it comes to Star Wars shows, people get excited over cameos from past Star Wars projects. Sometimes they fit in well, and sometimes they just don't. Like, take the Book of Boba Fett for example. I hated the Book of Boba Fett, and even though Luke and Ahsoka were in that show, they didn't do anything. Like, they're not part of his journey or anything, they're just there for fan service. And if you took them out of there, it wouldn't change a fucking thing. So we have Star Wars Rebels where they treat their cameos with respect by having them be part of the main cast journey. Like, it's no spoiler that characters like Ahsoka, Darth Vader, and Darth Maul are in this show. And, I mean, they're in the posters for crying out loud. Though I already mentioned that Mon and Sar are in this too. But the origins of the Rebel Alliance plays a big part in the show, and you know how relevant those two characters are in that movement. So, if you're gonna do Star Wars and have cameos in this show, this is how you do it. Like, this is how you just do it. Now, some people say you should watch the Clone Wars before you watch Rebels, and that would give you more context to the past characters. I feel like you don't really have to. You see, these characters already say who they were back then without going into much detail. Like when we see Saw Gerrera for the first time, they say he fought with his late sister against the Separatists, and that's what made him a war hero. And that's it. You don't feel spoiled. So, unless you really want to, you just don't have to see what he was like in the Clone Wars. But how about the Ghost Crew? They are clearly the main characters of this show, but they were also new to the Star Wars franchise. So how do you make them engaging like the characters that came before them? They must serve as the heart of the show in order for us to root for them. And they most certainly do as each season goes by. First we have Hera, who owns and pilots the Ghost. She's like the mother figure of the crew, while also can be tough when necessary. And also her droid Chopper, who is both grumpy while also chaotic. And he's just really funny at times too. Then we have Zeb, who is based off of the concept art for Chewbacca. What makes him different from Chewbacca is that he talks, and is voiced by Steve Bloom, who also voiced Spike on Cowboy Bebop. I thought that was pretty neat. He and Ezra have like this brotherly relationship, while also being tough at times. And then we have Sabine, who you see is a Mandalorian. She loves art and expresses her rebellious attitude through her work. Then there's Ezra, who is pretty much the Luke Skywalker of the series. At the beginning of the series, he is 14 years old and has that bratty teenage boy attitude. And some just found that annoying, but people grew to like the character. Similar to how people thought Ahsoka was bratty at the beginning of the Clone Wars, and as the series progressed, she became more of a fan favorite. And so, as the series of Rebels progresses, Ezra learns more about the Force, he learns to be more responsible. You see, before the Ghost Crew showed up in his life, Ezra was alone and had to depend on himself, even if it meant stealing from others. But once he joins the Ghost Crew and decides to become a Jedi, he starts to understand what it means to stand up to the Empire by not just stealing from them, but also fighting for what he believes in and trying to get them off his planet Lothal. And last but not least, we have my favorite character, Kanan Jarrus, a former Jedi Padawan who survived Order 66. Kanan serves as the Jedi mentor to Ezra, but struggles to train him because Kanan didn't complete his own training. It was cut off short by Order 66. When Kanan is training Ezra, he's not just teaching Ezra. Kanan is also teaching himself to be stronger, to be wiser, and to become the Jedi that he was destined to be. I feel in this show, Kanan and Ezra act more like peacekeepers than the Jedi did in the Clone Wars. When the Jedi were starting to become hated for leading clone soldiers instead of protecting the little guy, innocent people, in the Clone Wars, you wouldn't see a Jedi protecting those in need. And so Kanan and Ezra are able to reclaim that title for the Jedi, making innocent people pray for the Jedi to return. Kanan has fought many foes, including the Grand Inquisitor, an agent of the Empire who uses the dark side to hunt down surviving Jedi. I don't think he's in my list of top 10 favorite Star Wars villains, but he's such an interesting opponent for Kanan. Like, they just have such great chemistry whenever they cross blades with each other. Like, he knows how to just get to him mentally. Like, it's kind of similar to Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul, or Anakin versus Dooku. Like, their personalities just bounce off each other really well. Some of the other villains that I've already mentioned are Darth Vader and Darth Maul, who is my favorite Star Wars villain, and his character is handled so well without giving spoilers away. Like, him having his own spin-off show really makes me more excited for both Darth Maul and Star Wars in general. But another villain that people think of is Grand Admiral Thrawn, one of the most popular characters from the expanded universe. The first time I watched him, I thought he was amazing, how even though Thrawn is not the most powerful of people, he's still calculating. In order to defeat the rebels, Thrawn studies them. People like to compare this to the Clone Wars and Andor, but that's like comparing apples and oranges. Rebels is still an amazing show. It's not perfect, but it's still good in its own way, and it just stands so well as a really good show in general. It did things that the other shows haven't done. If you're a Star Wars fan who hasn't watched this show yet, do it, or do not. There is no try. Season 1 isn't the best season, but it still has its great moments, especially the Grand Inquisitor, and each season just gets more and more investing to the point where you're going to appreciate the ending. Also, make sure you don't watch Ahsoka before Rebels. Ahsoka is a show that newcomers are going to have a hard time understanding because they expect to know what they are referencing. Like, oh, Dave Filoni's probably saying, like, oh, add this reference. They'll know what it means. No they don't. I still love Dave Filoni, don't get me wrong. He did a good job with the Clone Wars, with Rebels, and I'm gonna give Star Wars Rebels a 9 out of 10. It's definitely up there with Andor, with the Clone Wars, and it's just adds a lot to the Star Wars universe in a really good way. And yeah, have you seen Star Wars Rebels? Did you like it? Did you not? Do you plan on watching it? Just let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And if you are new to this channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I also have a book as well in the description down below. You can get yourself a copy on Amazon. And that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Rob A, and may the anime force be with you.